Well, protesters across the U.S. rallied this weekend against U.S. President Donald Trump and billionaire Elon Musk. The demonstrations targeted everything from government downsizing to the economy and human rights. One of the largest hands-off rallies took place in Boston, and UBC political science professor Terri Givens was there. She is now back in Vancouver and joins us this morning. Good morning to you, Terri.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being with us. I saw pictures from right across the United States, dozens of cities where these rallies were taking place. Tell us about the protest in Boston.
Well, it was quite impressive. A friend and I came down from her house and nearby, and we really were surprised, actually, in some ways, by how large the size of the crowd was. And, we were also, we're both political scientists, so we're interested in seeing, who was there. And so it was really inspiring to see so many people coming out from all different backgrounds and ages and so on.
And what brought you to Boston in the first place? Did you go there specifically for the protest?
No, I happened to be doing a workshop in Hartford, Connecticut, and I have a former student, now colleague, who lives nearby Boston, and we agreed that I would stop by her place and then head down to Boston for the protest. We initially weren't sure we were going to go, but we were propelled to go by a variety of things, including Cory Booker's, stand last week in the House of or in the Senate, I should say.
That was a remarkable performance by him, I must say.
Yes, it was.
And now tell me about the hands-off movement, because that's what these rallies have been called. For Canadians who don't know about it, what is the movement exactly?
Well, funnily enough, I think a lot of Americans don't know what this movement is. I've been following it because, of course, as a political scientist, I'm interested. But, early on, when the hands-off movement started showing up on social media, people were like, what is this? Is this some kind of scam or something? And eventually I think it was several groups combined forces to create this hands-off movement, and it is connected to people in the Democratic Party, but it goes well beyond that. And it's really a grounds-up citizen movement that was able to pull things together on social media and get things going for April 5th. And now they're also talking about another event on April 19th.
And what were the main messages or concerns that you heard from protesters?
Well, the interesting thing is the movement itself didn't specify what people should be protesting. It was just kind of hands off everything. Hands off Social Security, of course, has been a huge concern for people. It's really the impact of the tariffs that people have focused on in the last week. But obviously, this was developed before that. And there's Medicare and Medicaid. There's just the firings of people in the federal workforce, veterans, and then, of course, being in Boston, which is a huge university town, there was the big concerns about students being disappeared and students getting emails, international students getting emails that their visas have been revoked. So that was also a big topic.
And the stated reason for those threats against students, and especially foreign students, is what exactly?
So these are students who may have participated in protests, but sometimes it's not clear. For example, there's a Turkish student who had written an op-ed in her school newspaper, is in custody right now and in danger of being deported. There have even been, it's not just students, right? It's people trying to get into the U.S., on legal visas who are, somehow they're finding out on their social media or whatever it may be that they're critical of Trump. And so this is a huge, huge concern, not just for students, but for people who want to get into the United States.
As an academic, Terri, and as somebody, well, you happen to be American, and as, somebody who wants open and unfettered debate, what do you think of what is going on in your country right now?
I'm very dismayed and concerned, and that's why I was out there on Saturday because, I have many friends who are being impacted by the situation at different universities, and part of the problem is there's a huge amount of uncertainty. Yeah. It's not clear how far things are going to go, and of course, academic freedom is a huge concept that really drives academe, and more broadly, our ability to conduct research. And of course, we're seeing research funds, not only the NIH and so on, but research funds being cut back, which will not only damage the research and teaching, but it's also damaging the ability of institutions to function.
When they were asked about the protests, the White House said they released a statement that said this: President Trump's position is clear. He will always protect Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid for eligible beneficiaries. Meanwhile, the Democrats' stance is giving Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare benefits to illegal aliens, which will bankrupt these programs and crush American seniors. Your reaction to that?
Yeah, I'm not afraid to say that's a lie because undocumented immigrants have no access to things like Medicaid and Medicare, and especially Social Security. And the reality is, even if they did, frankly, they're putting money into these programs, and if they'd be taking money out that they had already put in. So, the reality is that Trump is not protecting these programs. The budget that the GOP in Congress is proposing would gut these programs to fund taxes for multimillionaires and billionaires to the top 1%. And, this is what happened during, at least the tax cuts were something that happened during his first term. So we know what those look like. And also we know that if this budget goes through, there's already damage being done to people with Social Security. My own sister was trying to get through to the Social Security office, and they are requiring people to go in person, and then they're shutting down offices, and you can't get through, and the website is breaking down. And so, and they're talking about completely recoding the system, which is very scary.
Right. Terri, we will leave it there this morning. Glad to have you back in town, and we will talk again.
Thank you. Take care.
Appreciate it. You take care. That is Terri Givens, American professor of political science, who works and lives in Vancouver. She was in Boston over the weekend, where she attended just one of the hands-off protests in the United States. We saw those very large protests take place in major cities right across the U.S.